All right, guys, it's Dr. Roto along with Adam Ronis. We're from ScoutFantasySports.com. And today, Adam, we are talking all things Miami Dolphins. And when I think of the fish, I don't know. The fish doesn't smell too good this year for me.
No, it doesn't. And we don't like the smell of bad fish. We usually tend to go away from it. So I don't think we're going to have a lot of appeal here when it comes to the Dolphins.
Was it bad salmon? Was that what it was? Around was bad salmon? I can't remember what we talked about on the radio. But all right, Ryan Tannehill is back. Look, this tells you how long I've known Ryan Tannehill. When we used to live down in Texas, Tannehill was actually a wide receiver for Texas A&M. And it always worries me because when a guy is not – a lot of guys who play quarterback play from the time they're 10 years old. This guy literally started to play quarterback when he was about 20 years old. I think that's a little too late for him.
Yeah, we've seen flashes, but of course, the injuries over the last couple of years. So from a fantasy perspective, no one's looking at Ryan Tannehill in their fantasy league. At best, if you're in a super flex or a league that starts two quarterbacks, he's going to be your third quarterback. I don't see anyone taking him in any drafts, especially if you only start one quarterback, because we know that the ceiling is very limited with him.
Can we just put some pressure here on Adam Gase for a second? I got to tell you, I think he may be one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL. First of all, he has Jay Ajayi molting on his bench. Then the guy goes off and becomes a great running back, right? Then they move him. Then Kenyon Drake comes out of nowhere, and he becomes a great running back. Both these guys couldn't get any playing time from Gase prior to these trades. Maybe Adam Gase is not the talent evaluator that everybody thinks he is.
Well, certainly he hasn't worked out so far, and who knows if we would have even seen the potential of Kenyon Drake if there weren't some injuries in front of him. They weren't even going to go to him. And then finally we did see him, especially towards the end of the season, the last 5 weeks, averaged 4.9 yards per carry, showed some explosiveness, and probably led a lot of fantasy teams down the stretch to some championships.
But I got to tell you, I'm a little soft on Kenyon Drake this year, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, you've got Frank Gore. I don't like Frank Gore very much, but when you bring him in as a free agent, obviously it's with the intention of using him in short yardage situations. Then they draft Kalen Ballage out of Arizona State. This dude is like 6'2", 230. This guy's a wrecking ball. So, I mean, as much as I want to get behind Kenyon Drake, I just ask myself, is he going to get more than like 15 touches a game with Adam Gase screwing around?
Yeah, that's the biggest question because Drake is someone who's going early in drafts. Anyone who has drafted so far or has seen the Fantasy Football World Championship ADPs knows that running backs are skyrocketing up the board. I mean, in most drafts, you're seeing 9 running backs go in the first round. So that means everyone is searching for another running back in round 2. And the people who went 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds, they're looking at Kenyon Drake in round 3. And do you really feel comfortable with that, knowing that they didn't really commit to him last year? And yes, Frank Gore is now 34. He won't go away. But even if he just takes a handful of touches, it could be a problem for Drake. So we saw a small sample of Drake really excel. And I think our biggest question is, will the Dolphins commit to him enough to feel comfortable taking him in round 3 of a draft, which is where you're going to need to take him?
I'll be honest. If it's pick 1, 2, or 3, I'm not taking Drake of round 3. If I have pick 10, 11, or 12 at the end of round 3, that's when I'm going to pull the trigger. If I'm stuck in the middle, I probably would take Jordan Howard first. I definitely would take Joe Mixon first, that's for sure. I want to get behind Kenyon Drake, but I don't trust Adam Gase.
No, I agree with you. And I think you are seeing those 2 running backs that you mentioned previously, Mixon and Howard, going ahead of Drake. You're seeing Drake in that range of 16 to 19 at running back. So for a lot of teams, it's going to be their RB2. For some, they might just be desperate. If they go the 2 wide receiver route, they're going to be staring at Kenyon Drake in the 3rd round as their RB1, and I don't know if you're going to feel great about that.
All right, let's talk about receivers here for a second. And Adam, I've got this problem with Devontae Parker.
Me too.
I look at a guy like Parker. This is a guy who probably was the best athlete in high school, was the best athlete in college, never had to work very hard. Now he gets the NFL, and everybody's as strong, everybody's as fast, if not faster, everybody's more athletic, and you can't just get by on your athleticism. You actually have to work, and I don't think he's willing to work to be the best.
Well, we heard some stories last year that he was, and he started to change his eating habits, and he wasn't hydrated at practice, and he wasn't eating breakfast, and we can get away with that. But when you're an athlete, you know, those things that seem minor, you have to make sure you take care of your body. That is your tool to drive success. And it wasn't there the first couple of years. Now, we saw flashes last year, but it was a disappointment because there were some people who thought he would break out, draft him in round 4 or 5, and it didn't happen. Now, he played 13 games. Injuries are another factor with him, and he missed 3 games, had the ankle injury. 8 of his 13 games last year, double digits in PPR formats, but 1 touchdown. Now, it's a different quarterback, and the other thing that could potentially give you some optimism is Jarvis Landry is gone, and that's a lot of targets that are gone from this offense. With Parker, I think it comes down to price. Obviously, when you bring up Devontae Parker to someone, they're going to moan and groan and say, I'm done. He's disappointed. There's still the potential there. It comes down to price. If you're getting him around 8 or 9, I could see taking a chance because you're not depending on him to be a crucial part of your fantasy team. In that round, you're kind of taking a flyer.
But I think you can't forget they bring in Danny Amendola. I know he gets hurt a lot, but this guy is a Jarvis Landry type. They bring Albert Wilson. They draft Mike Gesicki from Penn State. You already had Kenny Stills. You've got Drake. The best case scenario for me for Devontae Parker is Plexico Burress. Maybe 70 catches, 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I don't see better than that.
That would be a good year, though. I think you would take that in round 8 or 9. You know, I think there was only about 15 wide receivers to go over 1,000 yards last year. Now, that was a year I think was kind of down for wide receivers. We saw the rise of the running back a little bit, and even some of the elite wide receivers didn't post consistent numbers. So would you take Parker in round 8 or 9?
I would take Parker as my 4th receiver. Right. I wouldn't feel good about him as my 3rd. But if he's
right. I agree. Because there's still that potential there, but we hit on a lot of the factors on why there's still some question marks. And he's like that post-hype sleeper, and this is obviously a big year for him. And he has to get it done now. We did see Ryan Tannehill favor him a little bit, but it's on Parker. I mean, this is a big year for him.
I'm not against taking him, but, you know, I look at it and I wonder, I think there needs to be a legitimate second receiver here. This guy, Gesicki kid, runs a 4.5, dude. He's channeling his inner Travis Kelce. He might be a pretty good weapon.
Yeah, some of the early reports in OTAs are he's lost, which is not surprising. It's a tight end, and we know that tight ends usually struggle in their rookie season. I know we can point to Evan Ingram last year, but I think that was an exception. I think, you know, he splits out wide a lot, and he's more like a wide receiver. But to me, this is good. I mean, you pointed out some of the potential of Gesicki. You want his price to be down now. What you want to do is draft now and maybe take him in the last round as a second tight end, hope that he learns, gets better in training camp, and we know that Adam Gase likes to use tight ends in the system. So we always talk about drafting early. One of the benefits is people see these headlines now, and they're going to go away from Gesicki.
Look, if I could take Gesicki in round 17 or 18, I'll be okay with that. I also think I think Albert Wilson might be sneaky. I don't think the Chiefs used him properly. And if they could use him, if Miami could use him like they used Jarvis Landry last year, I might be okay with him.
Yeah, because you brought up Amendola. We know he's getting hurt, okay? It happens all the time, and he's getting older. So he'll be there for a few weeks, but we know at some point he's going to get injured. And that's when you can plug in Wilson, and he could become a favorite of Tannehill. And he's someone that's probably not even be drafted right now in leagues with 20 rounds. He could be a name that we're talking about off the waiver wire this year.
Right, which look, I never have a problem with that. It's always good to have a few names late in the draft. But you know, when I think of Miami as a whole, you know, you lose Sue, you lose Landry, you're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, this is just a team that doesn't look very good at all. You know, we know the AFC is a very weak division right now. You have several teams that are rebuilding, and Miami just doesn't have enough. I don't see this team making the playoffs.
Could be some bad fish here, Ronis.
Bad fish, and we always say go away from bad fish. Don't swim towards it, swim away.
Far away from bad fish. All right. If you want to see, actually, you want to read Shawn Childs' amazing team outlook, where do you go? Scoutfantasysports.com, Adam. I'm loving Shawn's outlooks.
Yeah, it's insane. They're so in-depth, and when you read that team profile, you feel like, okay, I know everything about this team, and you want to do it now. People say, oh, it's June. We're far away from football. It'll be here before you know it, and you want to be ahead of the curve. And by start reading these profiles right now, you'll be ahead of your competition in July. They'll be catching up. They won't know who's on what team. They won't know about the free agency changes. You'll know everything right now, and you always want to be ahead of your competition.
And when you get ahead of your competition, go to playffwc.com and sign up for one of our drafts. There was one last week, an online championship. Devontae Parker went in the 7th round. Kenyon Drake went in the 3rd. That's how you know where people are doing. So check that out. And of course, sign up at Scout Fantasy Sports for our preseason pro package. Sleepers, busts, stash and cash, 10 of the best high-stakes players in all the world, giving you the information. It's an amazing value. All right, guys, this is Dr. Roto and Adam Ronis saying be well and take care.